Here we go. Question 1. Look for the constraint that matters. Global App Deploy runs a regional subscription-based streaming service in one AWS region. Web app servers on EC2 Auto Scaling behind ELBs, Aurora Global DB across AZZs. For global expansion and minimal downtime, what provides the most fault tolerance? Select one answer. Review the answer choices on screen. The correct answer is option A. 2 regions with Aurora Global and Route 53 failover. To achieve the highest fault tolerance for a global service, a multi-region architecture is essential. Deploying the application tier's web app in a second AWS region provides regional redundancy. An Amazon Aurora Global database allows the database to span multiple regions with managed replication and fast failover capability, promoting a secondary region's cluster to primary. Amazon Route 53 with health checks and failover routing can automatically direct users to the healthy region if the primary region experiences an outage, thus minimizing downtime and providing global fault tolerance. What's up, everyone? Stack Lessons back with another batch. Today we're working through 10 questions on encryption and immutability, SQS QDEP scaling, and database service selection. Each one gets read aloud, then a 6-second countdown before the answer drops. Take your time. Let's get into it. Count every one you get right. Your score matters at the end. Now, question 2. Check the condition before the service. Scheduled Task Optimize has an EC2 Linux instance running several 1-hour tasks on a schedule. These tasks, written by different teams in various languages, currently cause performance and scalability concerns running on a single instance. A solution with minimal operational overhead is needed. What is the best approach? Select one answer. Review the answer choices on screen. The correct answer is option A. Fardate works, but Batch owns polyglot scheduled jobs. AWS Batch is a fully managed batch computing service that enables developers, scientists, and engineers to easily and efficiently run hundreds of thousands of batch computing jobs on AWS. It dynamically provisions the optimal quantity and type of compute resources, e.g., EC2 instances or Spot instances, based on the volume and resource requirements of the submitted jobs. It supports jobs packaged as Docker containers, which can accommodate tasks written in various languages. Amazon EventBridge can then be used to schedule the submission of these batch jobs, providing a scalable and operationally efficient solution for scheduled resource-intensive tasks. Now, question 3. Watch for must, most, least, or except. FastNetEC2 Inc. is experiencing sudden increases in demand, requiring rapid provisioning of large EC2 instances from an AMI within an auto-scaling group. They need a solution that provides minimum initialization latency to meet this demand quickly. Which strategy is most effective? Select one answer. Review the answer choices on screen. The correct answer is option A. FSR pre-warms the volume full IOPS from block 1. When EC2 instances are launched from an AMI, the EBS volumes created from snapshots need to be initialized, data downloaded from S3. This can cause initial I/O latency. EBS Fast Snapshot Restore. FSR pre-warms volumes created from FSR-enabled snapshots, ensuring they deliver their full provision performance immediately upon creation. Using an AMI based on an FSR-enabled snapshot significantly reduces the initialization latency when new instances are launched by the auto-scaling group, allowing them to become productive faster. Now, here's question 4. Quick check. GraphDB Connections Inc. is building a social networking application. They need to store and query data with complex relationships between users, posts, likes, and comments. Fast traversal of these relationships is critical for features like friend recommendations and newsfeed generation. Which AWS database service is specifically designed for this type of graph data model? Select one answer. Review the answer choices on screen. The correct answer is option A. Neptune is purpose-built for graph traversal. Amazon Neptune is a purpose-built, fully managed graph database service. It is optimized for storing and querying datasets with highly connected relationships, making it ideal for social networking applications, recommendation engines, fraud detection, and knowledge graphs. It supports popular graph query languages like Gremlin for property graphs and SparkQL for RDF, allowing efficient traversal of complex relationships. Now, question 5. Test each option against the full ask. ArchSecure Limited is developing a VPC architecture with multiple subnets to host applications using EC2 instances and RDS DB instances. This setup includes 6 subnets across 2 availability zones: public, private, and database dedicated per AZ. A key security requirement is that only EC2 instances in the private subnets can access the RDS databases. How should this be enforced? Select one answer. Review the answer choices on screen. The correct answer is option D. May calls seem right, but SG to SG rules are more precise. Security groups act as stateful firewalls for EC2 instances and RDS DB instances. By creating a security group for the RDS DB instances and configuring an inbound rule that allows traffic on the database port, e.g. 3306 for MySQL, only from the source security group of the EC2 instances and the private subnets, you implement the principle of least privilege. This ensures that only authorized instances can connect to the database. 5in, multi-region Aurora failover, batch for polyglot jobs, FSR for cold launch speed, Neptune for graph traversal, SG chaining over subnet NACLs. Time for another one. Question 6. Watch the exact wording. S3 backup immutable needs a backup strategy for critical data stored in Amazon S3. Regulatory requirements mandate that backups must be retained for 5 years and must be immutable, meaning they cannot be altered or deleted by any user, including administrators during the retention period. Which combination of AWS backup and S3 features will meet these stringent immutability and retention needs? Select one answer. Review the answer choices on screen. The correct answer is option D. Compliance mode locks out root, governance does not. AWS backup can be used to backup data from various AWS services, including Amazon S3. To meet the immutability requirement, you can use AWS Backup Vault Lock. When Vault Lock is applied in compliance mode to a backup vault, it enforces a write once read many, warm state for the recovery points, backups stored in that vault. This means that once a recovery point is locked in compliance mode with a specified retention period, e.g. 5 years, it cannot be deleted or modified by any user, including the root user, until its retention period expires. This directly addresses the need for immutable, long-term backups. Let's slow down here. The phrase "including administrators" changes everything about which answer is right. Imagine a regulator auditing your company. They find a backup deleted during its 5-year window by your own admin team. That's a violation. This question asks, do you know the difference between hard to delete and impossible to delete? Options A and B lean on MFA delete and IAM policies. But root bypasses IAM policies entirely. And even with MFA delete on, root can still permanently erase versioned objects. Option C uses S3 object lock in governance mode, bypassable by anyone with the right permission. Only compliance mode locks it for real. AWS Backup Vault Lock in compliance mode means zero overrides once the grace period expires. Not even AWS support can touch it before your 5-year retention ends. That phrase, including administrators, is the exam's tell. Let us keep moving. Question 7. Prioritize the stated requirement. Linux Shared File Store is migrating a Linux-based web server group to AWS. A critical requirement is that these web servers must be able to access files in a shared file store for some of their content. The company mandates that no changes can be made to the existing application code regarding how it accesses these files, i.e., it expects a standard file system mount. What AWS storage solution should a solutions architect implement to meet these requirements? Select one answer. Review the answer choices on screen. The correct answer is option D. No code changes plus shared mount. That points to EFS. Amazon Elastic File System, Amazon EFS, provides a simple, scalable, and fully managed elastic NFS file system for use with AWS cloud services and on-premises resources. Linux-based EC2 instances can mount an EFS file system using the standard network file system NFS v4 protocol, just like they would an on-premises NFS share. This allows multiple web servers to concurrently access and share files stored on EFS without requiring any changes to the application code that expects POSIX-compliant file system access. EFS is designed for high availability and durability. Ready? Slow down for question 8. RDS Data Encryption Co. is planning to store sensitive data on Amazon RDS DB instances. A fundamental security requirement is that all data stored within these RDS DB instances must be encrypted at rest. What should a solutions architect do to ensure this requirement is met for new and existing RDS DB instances? Select one answer. Review the answer choices on screen. The correct answer is option C. You cannot enable encryption after creation. Snapshot restore only. Amazon RDS supports encryption at rest for all its available database engines. To enable this, you must select the encryption option when creating a new RDS DB instance or when creating a snapshot copy of an existing unencrypted instance, as direct encryption of an existing unencrypted instance is not always possible and often requires a snapshot restore process with encryption enabled. This encryption process uses AWS Key Management Service, AWS KMS, to manage the encryption keys. You can choose to use an AWS managed KMS key, default for the service, or a customer managed KMS key that you create and control. This ensures that the underlying storage for the DB instance, as well as its automated backups, read replicas, and any manual snapshots, are all encrypted at rest. Here's the tricky part. Encrypting an existing RDS instance isn't a simple checkbox. Let me walk you through it. Imagine your company already has a PostgreSQL database running in RDS, say 5 million customer orders already in there. You need to encrypt it. Here's the catch. RDS doesn't let you flip an encryption switch on a running instance. Instead, you follow a 4-step snapshot path. First, create a KMS key. That's your encryption key in AWS Key Management Service. Then snapshot the existing DB. Copy that snapshot with encryption turned on, selecting your KMS key. Finally, restore a new instance from the encrypted copy. Once done, all backups, read replicas, and future snapshots inherit that encryption automatically. For new instances, you just enable encryption at creation. The question tests whether you know the snapshot path for existing ones. Ready? Question 9. Do not answer a different question. On-premise MySQL database primarily used by its global sales team. The database experiences infrequent and unpredictable access patterns. A critical requirement for the sales team is that the database must have minimal downtime during and after migration. A database administrator is tasked with migrating this database to AWS without needing to pre-select a particular database instance type, as they anticipate significant future user growth and want the database to scale accordingly. Which AWS database service is the most suitable choice? Select one answer. Review the answer choices on screen. The correct answer is option D. No instance type selection points directly to serverless. Amazon Aurora Serverless is an on-demand auto-scaling configuration for Amazon Aurora, which offers MySQL compatibility. It is specifically designed to automatically start up, shut down for serverless v1, while v2 scales down to a minimal footprint, and scale compute and memory capacity based on actual application usage. This makes it an ideal choice for workloads with infrequent, unpredictable, or sporadic access patterns, as it eliminates the need to provision a fixed instance type. It can scale seamlessly to handle future user growth without manual intervention, minimizing costs during idle periods and ensuring capacity is available when needed. Let us switch gears. Question 10. Compare the distractors carefully. Workflow Dynamics Inc. is moving a distributed application with fluctuating workloads to AWS. The existing system features a central primary server that dispatches tasks to several compute nodes. The goal is to re-architect the application for optimal resilience and scalability. How should a solutions architect design the new AWS architecture to achieve this? Select one answer. Review the answer choices on screen. The correct answer is option A. Option B uses SQS but scales on schedule, not depth. Using Amazon SQS as a job queue decouples the job submission from job processing, enhancing resilience. Implementing compute nodes as EC2 instances in an auto-scaling group with scaling decisions based on the SQS queue depth, number of messages waiting, ensures that the number of compute nodes dynamically adjust to the workload. This provides both scalability to handle variable loads and resilience, as SQS retains messages if compute nodes fail, and auto-scaling replaces failed instances. This question is really about one thing. What should trigger your auto-scaling group? Picture a restaurant where one chef shouts every order. If that chef leaves, everything stops. Now swap it for a ticket rail. Orders hang there. Any cook can grab them. That's SQS, Amazon's managed message queue. Say 500 jobs are queued at 9 a.m. Auto-scaling reads that depth and fires up more EC2 instances. The queue empties, scaling pulls back. The trap in answer B is schedule-based scaling. It fires at fixed times, whether you have 5 jobs or 5,000. Answer C treats CloudTrail as a job queue. It's not. CloudTrail just logs API calls. Answer D points to EventBridge. It's an event bus, not a job store. Queue depth tells you exactly what's waiting. That's why A wins. 3 takeaways from this session. First, Vault Lock compliance mode is irrevocable. Even the AWS root account cannot delete recovery points before retention expires. Second, SQS queue depth scaling dynamically matches compute to actual load. Schedule-based scaling cannot react to real-time bursts. Third, encrypting an existing unencrypted RDS instance requires snapshot copy restore. You cannot toggle encryption in place. If those last questions slowed you down, good. Compliance mode blocks root. Encrypting an existing RDS instance needs a snapshot restore, and SQS only scales right when it tracks queue depth. Lock those in and keep going. One quick ask before you leave. Subscribe if you want the next set to find you automatically. It also tells YouTube to share these wider. Comment how you scored and which question caught you out. That feedback shapes what I make. Want a specific exam covered next? Drop it in the comments. And if the pace or the look of these could improve, let me know. I read all of it.